but one objective.
Purple color I see. Then you maintain the status.
December 7th, 19...
A question, a psychopath.
The Orby has not...
It's a really big shoe tonight.
Will you stifle yourself? Hey!
More people.
Dynamite!
You talk about, will you? Hello.
Thank you very much.
Who you calling a dummy, you big dummy?
Well, if the shoe fits, step it.
Till next week. Nanu.
Mr. McGee, don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
Hey everybody, once again, welcome back to tonight's TV lineup. My name's Danny J. Right here on the DJB Productions Network. Hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, leave us some comments. We want to hear from you. As always, we have another great one tonight. We're going to be talking about the greatest American hero right here on the DJB Productions Network. But first, let's bring up some heroes of our own, starting with Matt Sunner.
Good evening.
There we go. Jason Leach.
You.
And a man with a crazy mutant power of music, Chris Gordon.
How you doing?
How you doing? That's right. We got, once again, it's tonight's TV lineup. We're talking about the greatest American hero. This is a show that ran for, I believe, Matt, if you could double check, Matt, I think it's 3 seasons.
I think it's 3.
Let me check.
3 or 4 seasons.
81 to 83.
Yeah, it was 81 to 83.
There we go.
And this was about, and we'll get into this, but it's about Mr. H. I'm going to call him Mr. H for the time being, because we'll get into how this changed on the show. He's a school teacher.
34 episodes.
34 episodes.
3 seasons.
3 seasons. There you go. He's out in the desert for some reason, and a UFO comes into the desert.
Well, it was a field trip.
Yeah, it was right.
He was a school teacher. It was a field trip. He encounters the extraterrestrials.
Right.
Go ahead.
And then he
gives him the suit.
They give him the suit, right?
Yeah.
As he's all bewildered and trying to figure everything out, he's walking. He's getting ready to leave and walk away, and he loses the instruction manual for the suit. The suit has an instruction manual, and he loses it. And then from there, Mr. H dons the suit, gets these amazing powers, not unlike Superman in a way, and with with what has to be one of the greatest original superhero suits of all time, and along with an FBI agent, Bill Maxwell, and his beautiful lawyer fiance, played by Connie Selica.
Oh dear Lord,
she was so hot. Yeah, I know. The 3 of them go off on adventures where Ralph, or Mr. H, I should say, he goes out and he writes that which is wrong based on the cases that Bill Maxwell gets, and Bill uses Ralph, and closely they become partners, but uses Ralph almost like he's like the secret weapon in the fight against crime. And we go on from there. A lot of great stuff with this show. Obviously, guys, I know you guys all remember watching this show. I do as well. All the way on to the last episode. A lot of great people came from this show as well. But I mean, the starred William Kitt, who was in The House. I think that was the most famous thing. He was also in Carrie.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah.
And a number of other stuff, but he wasn't like super mega famous as an actor, but always was a decent actor. Bill Maxwell was played by, what the hell was that guy's name?
Robert Culp.
Robert Culp. Yeah.
Robert Culp, who was in a ton of shit in the 60s and 70s, and going into the 80s. Connie Selica is Connie Selica. We don't have to talk anything else about her other than how hot she was.
Dear Lord.
You know what I mean? We also have a very young Michael Perrier in there. Matt, the girl that was in the thing, she was in V. Played the main lead in V.
Yes.
Oh, right.
The blonde girl. She was Michael Perrier's quasi girlfriend. And what these were resource room kids. They were the troublemakers. They were the kids that had a lot of trouble in school, and they were troublemakers. And Ralph connected to them on a very human level. And that's what really made Ralph something, is that he was the epitome of goodness, which is why the aliens said, "Hey, we want to give you this suit." There was a whole reason behind it, and Ralph learned, as he went, and he he had to learn all these different powers because he didn't have the directions to the suit. He had to learn what powers he had, what he could do with them, how he can activate them, etc. And they just had crazy adventures from there.
Which was great when he discovered a new power like by complete accident.
Always by complete accident.
Yeah.
The only thing he really thought he could do was fly, and he eventually he learned how to at least jump off the air. Flying was a completely different story. Which was made it comical is that he could not fly. He could fly. I should say that he could fly, but not
very well.
Not well. He was the proverbial pigeon flying into the window.
Imagine it's like flying with a drunk pilot.
Legit. And every time he landed, he always had to do a barrel roll because he couldn't land.
Yeah, that was when he could never actually land.
If you remember, they had he didn't know how to get off the ground.
Yes.
And the little 10-year-old kid says, "No, you gotta step 3 times. You gotta
Right.
run and jump." And actually taught him how to use the suit,
which was a
get up in
cute,
the air.
cute scene. It's a very cute scene because the kid's like you said, like he's like an 8-year-old kid. He's like he's got a comic book, and he's seen him jump up and fall down, and he goes, "You're doing it wrong." In a sense, and no mask or anything like that. So he was really cool, and he had this very 70s curly locks, blonde locks, which was it was almost like an afro in a sense for a white guy. And it just a great show. But it was a show that was in the same vein as an A-Team or Riptide, where it was serious but had comedy elements to it, which made it very watchable. You wanted to see what Ralph would do next. But starting off with his name originally is Ralph Hinckley. And what happened was it's Ralph Hinckley, I think, in the pilot episode.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, they change it to Ralph Hanley because this was after Hinckley shot the president.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is after the Ronald Reagan shot. Again, I'm showing my age. But
I was alive when that happened.
On March 30th of 1981,
yes,
Reagan was shot by a guy named John Hinckley Jr.
John Hinckley, right. And they wanted no association.
Yeah, and I don't blame him.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Of course, Reagan came out of it, and he's like, "Yeah, I got this."
Got on his horse and was like, "Yeah."
So that's why they changed the name of that character.
Yeah, they changed it to Mr. Hanley.
Hanley.
And then it didn't really make a lot of sense because hey, we're all calling him Mr. Hinckley first, and now we're saying Hanley, but they're like, why is his name changing? Are these kids really that stupid? Which
is why I think they just eventually had all of them
Mr. H.
Mr. H.
Yeah, just call him Mr. H. And that was it, which made more sense in that scenario. A lot of cool things where he had to wear the costume underneath his clothes. Mm-hmm. So you can imagine how hot.
And ultimately too, then like his powers wouldn't work if he wasn't using the suit. All the powers were basically in the suit.
In the suit. Yeah, you had to have the suit.
So he had the suit.
There was an episode where, and the classic joke throughout the whole show was that he didn't know how to fly. And you're seeing him, and he's like, yes, he's like going straight on, like he's going to fly into a wall, right? And always flew like that. So there's a scene where Bill Maxwell, working with the FBI, he gets the guys in research and development to make these little foot wings. And he puts these foot wings on his boots. And he goes to fly, and they don't work. He just flies into a tree and stuff like that. When he would run fast, he made the sound of a train engine. A steam engine running like that, and smoke would be coming out of his feet and stuff like that, much like an Acme cartoon. So which was really fun. Connie Sellecca was there just to look at. She really didn't offer too much to the show at all. She was too hot for Ralph, I thought. She was a lawyer. He was a teacher. So it was like, even like economically, she was like too good for him. She was just so superior to Ralph.
Yeah.
It wasn't even funny. The show did a lot of cool things. They did focus around the kids a lot as well. His 20-something-year-old high school students.
Yeah.
they all looked like grown men and women, but they were in high school, and they did look like the biggest degenerates on the face of the planet. They even at one point formed a rock band and played in front of a green screen of millions and millions of people. This is so stupid.
They're like the sweat hogs.
They were the sweat hogs. Yeah, legit. But like, it was cool because like, you couldn't use Superman in regular TV, at least at that point, without the written consent and really without DC doing it. So this was a way to jump on the superhero, the sci-fi bandwagon, and get a week-to-week show where we're doing something different week to week. And I applaud it because it was something original in a sense. They hearkened to Superman and other superheroes as if they're canon as far as literature is concerned. But now this is real life, and I'm a real life superhero, and this is how this really happens, which was kind of cool in a sense. To show that it's not like in the comics,
Hey, Dan.
Yes.
I managed to find ourselves a GIF file of him flying.
Oh, good. Let me make you big.
Nice.
Let me make you big. There you go. Here he goes. Imagine that guy's flying at you. You make that big, Matt.
Yeah, hang on. Let me get that here. Grab that corner.
Look at that.
It's like I'm flying, but I have no idea what I'm doing. Again, drunken pilot.
Legit. And how many?
Wasn't there also like a sound effect behind it, like a?
Yeah,
it
always
doing that.
Always it was like a Whistler rocket.
Yeah.
The suit was incredibly awesome. Matt, if you can put up just a still of the suit.
Okay, let me go ahead and find that real quick.
You do that. I'll jump out and tell me when you got it. But such a great show in a sense. Now, Chris, being the oldest one here,
Yep,
you remember watching? Yeah, you remember watching this show. What were your thoughts at that time? We had, I believe, Incredible Hulk was still on the air. I think
may have been, yeah,
during that time frame. So we had some superhero stuff. We had Knight Rider was 83, I think. So Knight Rider was not long after that. We had Battlestar Galactica. We had Buck Rogers. So we were, and of course we had Star Wars. So we're in Superman the movie, the motion picture. So we're huge in sci-fi. We're huge in superheroes. And like I said, it was just amazing that they were able to do this original concept, which you don't get anymore. Like my wish for the MCU is don't worry about adapting some sort of comic book storyline. Create something.
Right.
Don't be so lazy. Just create
okay,
something.
Danny. I got the suit for you.
He's got the suit for me. Let's bring him Matt up here. Look at that suit.
Great pose.
It is a great pose. And look at his hair. Look at his hair. That's what really cracks me up. But this is a great suit. And I can tell you, as a kid, my favorite color being red, I loved this suit. I thought this suit was so freaking amazing. And you can actually get this suit now as far as the costume's concerned, which is really neat.
When I looked up images, it's like a lot of the images I found were actually from like costume shops.
Costume shops, they're selling this costume, right? It is a very simple costume. It's simple in nature, even down to his cape. His cape is tied, in a sense. It's like there's a little knot there, but just a very simplistic suit, but such an awesome looking suit. We had so much to happen with this particular show. We were talking about this off the air. One of the biggest hits of '81 was the theme song to this show, The Greatest American Hero.
Yeah.
And you couldn't turn a radio on without hearing this.
Yeah.
3, 4, 5 times a day back then.
Yeah.
Matt, what was that guy's name again? It was Galsberg or
Joey Scarborough.
Jerry Scarborough. This guy, he did another song. I've been desperately trying to find it. You can't, because this guy's catalog is like nowhere to be found.
Yeah.
But there's a song that they play in the very last episode of The Greatest American Hero, and it's like a goodbye episode because he's leaving, and Joey Scarborough is singing whatever this song is, and it's like a very, it's like a, I don't want to say a quasi sad song, but it's a farewell song, and it's such a great song. But I'm never able to find it anywhere. It other than watching that scene and being able to hear it in the background while they're talking, But the show did a lot of great stuff. He went on. There was no story arcs. It was an episodic type of series. So episode to episode, something different was happening, and Ralph got into the mix with Bill. In the
very beginning, he was he was divorced and he had a young son.
Yeah,
like trying to get custody of the kid and everything, and that didn't last long. I don't think.
And that's what his original relationship with Connie Selica was, because she was his lawyer. Yeah, she was his lawyer, and then he started boinking her. And that's where that stopped. He said, "Well, fuck the kid. I'm all right with you. That's all right." It's like I'm Mr. H. Now, eventually down the line in the series, the aliens come back, and he gets another chance to get the instruction manual, right? And the motherfucker loses it again, right? So he is destined not to fucking do this well at all. It's a simple book. I don't know why he wasn't able to keep hold of this thing. Like, I would have shoved that shit in my underwear. You know what I mean? It wasn't going to go anywhere without the instruction manual. And he met the race that the suit came from, which was kind of a neat thing. The actual UFO is very indignant of what's the name?
Close Encounters.
Close Encounters. Yeah, I was about to say Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Giant UFO, very ominous looking. A lot of lights, etc. They beam him down. In fact, in the very beginning of the episode, Bill Maxwell's partner is killed, and they are talking to Bill through the dead guy. Like, they hijacked his body, and they're talking to him through his partner, which was kind of a neat thing, stuff like that. So you kind of saw where the seriousness of the series was going. And once again, it was just such a fun show. And what I have here, I do have the TV promo for this, which we're going to talk about a little bit more about the show and also about where it led to when we come back right after this on tonight's TV lineup.
Take heart, America. At last, help is on the way. He may be unable to leap tall buildings in a single bound. He may be slower than a speeding bullet, and he may be less powerful than a locomotive. But he's working on it.
Butterfingers.
Give the poor guy a chance. He's just getting started.
Good God, Ralph. Superpowers.
But when he gets it going, there's no stopping him. Make way for the greatest American hero. He's coming to save us this Wednesday.
I'd stay home on Wednesday to watch that. But I love how they played it off as Superman. They're like, yeah, if you're thinking it's a Superman, another thing coming. This is the exact opposite of everything. I love how when he ran into the wall and he just collapses. He just falls down. just like, this is such a great show.
Well, no, I think the point of the show was to show the humanity in it. That,
Absolutely.
you know,
Absolutely.
you can attain something. If you were to look at it philosophically,
Yeah.
you can attain great things. Doesn't mean you can yield it.
Right.
Right.
100%.
You have to learn to yield the power you're given. And we all possess it. It's just that, you know, we get into the thing, and that's what happens, right? So, and that's one of the great things. Like, people shit on the 80s all the time. I'll never shit on the 80s. The 80s.
No, I won't.
80s was great.
The 80s was the
Greatest decade of all.
And I'm proud. And I tell all my students, I have a lot of students, I tell them, I don't envy you. I don't envy you at all.
No.
You guys are in a shit show. I, however, grew up without needing this, without needing what I'm on right now. And I think it's a beautiful thing. But I think that's what that movie, that show was about, in the sense of like power and vulnerability, because you're talking about the early 80s.
Yes.
You're also talking about the first Reagan administration, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which was a shit show.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it wasn't until the second half of the 80s where everything was like, oh man, we're all getting rich. Like, oh my God, you know, it's amazing. But the interesting thing about that era and how they depicted that show and that character was, yeah, there was power, but it wasn't controlled yet. And it was human. It was any of us. If any of us were given that suit, we'd all be doing the same shit right now.
And
now, on this day, you got a suit on, you're like, oh, you can fly? I guarantee you, you'd fly through somebody's window. You wouldn't know what the fuck you were doing.
And ultimately, though, too, I mean,
Right.
it did, though, have a great overall message, because it came down to truly that it's like, if you've got a good heart and you're trying, you know, even if you goof it up, you know, there you can redeem yourself.
Right.
Well,
there's always like that. There's that hope that it's like, you know, you're not going to always maybe necessarily get it right the first time,
but not even the second time. That's the beauty of it, is that nothing that he did
ever went quite as planned.
Right.
Right. And that's humanity.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the idea of being a hero isn't neat and clean.
Right.
You know, we can see Superman and go, oh yeah, fuck it, yeah, man, one and done, like killer. But and that's a beautiful thing too. That has its place. But the greatest American hero was like, and there were moments when I was, you know, I watched every episode of that show, and I remember going, fuck me, man. Like, come on. But I saw myself in that too. You know what I mean?
In that
like
costume?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I look
We all
hot
did.
in that. Fucking look hot in that costume. I still look hot in that costume.
Stupid.
And
I'm wearing it right.
I'm wearing it right now.
And by the way, I went, and of course I had to Google how he lost the instruction manual the second time, because like I couldn't quite exactly how he did it. Apparently they gave it to him and he was reading the manual. He figured out how he could make himself small.
Yes.
And then he figured, like, was reading it and like, okay, how do I make myself big again? And he did whatever it was, but of course he wasn't holding the manual, so he came back to regular size. But the manual was still miniaturized, and they couldn't find it because then, you know, it's probably all like this big, and they're out in the desert again. And then, so it's like, it's basically like lost in the dirt. They can't find it.
But you know what? That is absolutely how it would have happened in reality.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I just put a ceiling fan in, and it's the simplest job in the world. But I fucked it up. I got it to work. It's working now. It looks great, but I initially fucked it up. And that's the beautiful thing about it, is that, yeah, if you were given that kind of power, you'd be like, can imagine like you had that power on your cell phone. You'd be like, all right, here's my app. You hit it, and then you forget that, oh shit, I've got to
Let me tell you something. I think the reality would be the second time that he lost that manual, they would have just said, you know what, screw Earth, and just blew us up.
Yeah.
That's really what would have happened. They would have
Yeah.
attacked and just
Or
said,
yeah,
you know
oh,
what?
yeah, just give me that fucking suit back, okay?
I heard there's something on Mars. It's like, you know what I mean? Like this. But the cool thing about Ralph is that he was not corruptible. And that was a big thing. Like he really was the best that humanity had to offer. Because if he gave it to Bill, Bill was a good guy, but he was shady.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Bill would potentially use that to maybe rig a horse race or a boxing match or something like that, just to make a little bit of money. But at his core, he was a good guy, but he was somewhat corruptible. Ralph wasn't. Ralph really showed that despite all the hiccups, he got back up, and he proved that, like Chris was saying before, I'm not going to get this right, but I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to keep trying, and I'm going to do what's right. And his morality was through the roof,
Right.
and that's really what sold them, to him. That's probably why we didn't get destroyed in the last episode, because they're like, well, yeah, I mean, he was kind of a nice guy, in a sense, and he did have Connie Sellecca. So like, they probably were like, hey, he's doing all right. When we get towards the end of the series, because really because there wasn't any story arcs, there's only so much you could do. Yeah. In a sense, you know what I mean? Like even with the Incredible Hulk, which was an episodic series, he was always trying to cure himself. There was an underlining arc that was there. There really was not an arc for Ralph other than, let me try, because like you would think after the first year he would eventually learn how to fly. He never did. You know what I mean? Like with all the times
he was a lazy ass motherfucker.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, like if you had something like that, if you had an apparatus like that, that was given to you, and say it took you a couple of weeks to actually accept the fact that you've been given this.
Yeah.
And you deal with all that shit. Like you got to deal with all that shit. Like, okay. Then guarantee you, any day off I had, I'd be out there like, working my shit, But that also speaks to his character, which is the reluctant and the fact that he really just wants to be human.
Yeah, he doesn't want this job.
It's the reluctant hero, and he's like he just wants to be a teacher. He wants to he wants to take care of the kids that he's been entrusted to educate.
Because that's his power. His actual power isn't the suit and all that bullshit. It's actually the fact that he gives a shit about educating kids. That's his power.
Right.
Yeah.
And all the extraneous shit, the fact that, and when he tries to fly and stuff like that. But I'm probably going to go into subtext that probably even the writers didn't think about. But the fact that he is fucking up when he tries to fly, that he's his power, like he's got these powers, but he's not utilizing the same way. It's what makes him connectable to the kids that he's teaching, because he's vulnerable, he's human, he's like, that's why he's good at what he does as a teacher.
Right.
As a teacher myself, I speak to that what connects me to my students is the fact that I don't know everything. Like that's my connection to them, is that like, hey, you know what? I don't know everything. Like, let's talk about that. And his failure to fly or not fly in a really suave way where amen. Because what we would do, all four of us, I fucking guarantee you the four of us would do this. We'd be like, hey, where are you going? Don't worry about it. You know, we'd be out there fucking working on our fucking form. We'd be like, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It'd be total Superman.
Yeah. We'd be working on every single power to master them. But that's the scary thing when you think about it. And that's the interesting thing about William Katt's character, was that he was resistant to it, probably for the greater good. Because if we were to sit here, the four of us right now, and just think about that kind of power, and maybe that's why they gave it to him.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to be honest with yourselves and say, what would I do with that power? Yeah, we would be crime fighters for probably about a month. Maybe a month, right? And then we're like, we'd be like, February. You know what? There's no money in this. Yeah. But and I'm not saying any of us would be nefarious with that power, but there's something very dangerous about that level of power. You know, you have to you have to really intellectually deeply,
because every single one of us would be tempted, even if we didn't go through it, be all like, hey, this is great and all, but you know, gotta eat. You know,
well, no,
I still got a mortgage. I still got to put, you know, food on the table.
Matt, it even goes beyond that. It goes into a psychological mindset. Imagine having that power, even the power that was, right? You start to get a messiah complex.
Yeah, sure you do.
Because you know that if you are the sole proprietor of that power, you now are above every human on Earth, above the president, above every general. You have more power than they all do, and if you are living with that power for that long, eventually, like I'm not saying that would be the case. We don't know. Right. We don't know because we've never had it, but the probability or the plausibility, let's put it that way. The plausibility exists where it's like, you know, so that's why I say, like, when people talk to me about like, hey, well, what would you do if you were like a multi-billionaire? I'm like, I can't fathom it. Like, that's power. And with power comes, like, you know, what do you know, it gets philosophical. It can fuck your head up. Like, you know, and I think that was why this character was played very well, because he exhibited exactly what a true moral person would have done with that power, meaning that they would have been like, I'm going to suck at this. Because a true moral person would suck at great power. They really would, because they would understand that it's the simple things in life. It's the simple things. It's like you were talking earlier. It's about your children. It's about your family. It's about who you interact with. And that's how he played the character. Like, yeah, try to fly. He always, you know, he fucked it up every time. Like, he wasn't Superman, but he was human. And
hey, Dan, you're muted or something.
That's probably a good thing, because now you can hear me.
Yeah.
He heard that. I just wasn't with
you. Yeah. He's mute, but he's not deaf.
My
headphones are clearly working.
I made my superpower happen.
Dan, switch your mics or something. I think we need a new producer.
Yeah, it shows on my end that you're on mute. Okay.
Yeah, you hit a button. Yeah, you're on mute, brother. There we go.
Now talk.
Now he's frozen.
Oh shit.
That's another one of my superpowers.
There you go.
There we go. I got him back.
Nope.
Now he's back on mute, motherfucker.
No. I hate when that happens. I've done that before.
He's got to come back on. Yeah. I've done it.
I've accidentally, like all my, like my camera, my mic, and everything. It's all going through a USB hub, and I've accidentally like knocked that USB hub out of the port, and all of a sudden, like you lose one or the other.
Still nothing, Danny.
No, you're no. Oh, geez. Yeah. Did you switch mics? Switch back to your cam mic.
I think he's just having internet issues, man.
Could be. I don't know. He's having testicle difficulties.
Oh, that's the worst.
Nothing to see or hear, people. Total professionals.
I'm sure this will all get edited out later.
Yeah. We know exactly what we're doing here.
I'm taking over. Here's how this is going to go.
I'm not a podcasting host, but I play one on YouTube.
Yeah, right on.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Now we can hear you.
See, I fixed it. Now this won't be edited.
Yeah, keep it in. That's great.
Right.
What I was going to actually say is that
you still doesn't know how to use it.
my shit goes again. Let me get my point out real quick. What I was going to say is that I would like to think that he thought, if I don't do this, imagine who will do this.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, as the reluctant hero, I need to suck it up, because God forbid it gets in Bill's hands or somebody like really like that.
Well, I mean, who's to say that any of us would think that?
Oh, right.
And any of us who were given that gift would think that.
Right. Exactly.
And chances are all four of us would suck at it. We would suck at it in the beginning. But that's an interesting thing. It would be an interesting experiment to give the four of us certain powers and see how long we could possess those powers and use them for the, and that was the other great thing about the show, is that it wasn't anything like, it was, and maybe that's why it didn't continue. Right.
Right.
But,
well, there was no story arc and anything like that. It was just like, how further are we going to go with a guy that doesn't want to do this in the first place?
Yeah. How many different situations can we come up with before we
now
ourselves?
To finish Chris's statement, though, I think a great experiment would be that we all secretly buy this costume, and just one day, without telling our spouses, we just put it on and go about our business during the day.
Yeah, and never get laid again.
I got the costume though.
I can hear my wife. I can hear my wife right now, because she says it to me so many times. You're an idiot.
You're an idiot. I already told my wife, but when Johnny Weissmother had Alzheimer's towards the end, he thought he was Tarzan, right? And was in the home and was trying to climb on the chandeliers to swing and stuff like that. And I said, when I go, I hope I think I'm Spider-Man. And I'm running through the hallways with one of those backless gowns with my ass out. And I'm just like posing and like fucking, like whipping people left and right. I think that would be the way I want to go. And why not? It's a wonderful thing to think you're going out on a high moral, standing. I'm saving lives. No, you're not. You're farting. It's what you're doing, and you have no underwear on. It's like, it's basically what it comes down to. Now, towards the end of the series, they did, and this is so funny because we were talking about this in the Knight Rider episode. If you watch tonight's TV lineup, check out the Knight Rider episode. They did this in Knight Rider 2000 when they were trying to bring up a new spin-off series or bring back the series, etc. They tried to do I don't want to say a gender swap,
but a gender swap of the main character. Ralph hands off the suit to a female who I believe is a cop. Matt, if you could look that up, I think she was a cop that Bill knew. So she was like a rookie that Bill, like she was she was a rookie and she was like top of her class. And Bill like recruited her to take over when Ralph didn't want to do it anymore. And in the last episode, he gives her the suit. And strangely enough, the suit looks like it's made for a girl, which cracks me up. It doesn't look like that when Ralph has it on, but it looks like that when she puts it on, right? Completely hugs her boobs and everything. Like she looks like it was made for her. It was very form-fitting. But in that last episode, he gives her the suit, and he has this big farewell to Bill because him and Connie Selleck are going off. He goes, "Dude, I don't want to fight crime anymore. I got Connie Selleck." I'm paraphrasing. That wasn't in the script. He's like, "I'm going to hand it off," and just like what we said in Knight Rider, and imagine this was actually earlier than the Knight Rider 2000 movie, which was in the 90s, because this ended in early 80s. I don't think we wanted in the 80s a female lead of that caliber. I don't think we did. It was a very, one thing I got to say, and we said it in the other show, and we'll say it again, and this is not, we don't think this is right. We're not condoning this, but the 80s was a very chauvinistic time frame. It was a very chauvinistic time frame.
I'm gonna pipe in real quick.
You did this in the other show too, Chris.
Sigourney Weaver.
I know Sigourney Weaver. You brought it up. I know you did it before. I know.
All right. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I watched the other episode the other day. Okay. No, Chris has a great.
I'm saying I grew up in the 80s. It was not chauvinistic.
I just don't.
In that sense that you're thinking, I get it that it was very male dominated. I understand it. I was in the music.
I don't think but I don't
think it was
think
male dominated.
I don't think if in Aliens, the second one, right? If the first Alien was like, I'm just taking a name out of the air.
No, 1979, 1978.
Bill Paxton. Let's say Bill Paxton, right, was the main star.
That was 1982. No, that was even later.
He was in the second one. He was later than that. He was in Aliens. But imagine if it was a male-dominated lead, and then in the second one, it was then Sigourney Weaver. You see my point?
She was still the lead. She's been the lead in every Alien.
Oh, she's a great. I know, but I'm saying going to a quasi universe where she wasn't the lead of the first movie.
Well, if she wasn't, the movie would have sucked.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Go ahead, Matt. I'm sorry.
All right.
That's what I'm saying. Is that my point being is that she made it happen.
Right. But my point being
the
that
box office proves that.
But my point being
by
that
the numbers.
if she wasn't the lead in the first movie, it would have been a harder climb for her to be the lead in the second movie. But a movie.
But I think that's the case. I think that's the case with any leading man. I lived in Hollywood. I lived in L.A. and I remember meeting leading men who were like, "I'm not a leading man. I'm not."
But can we also, But can we also say though that potentially, because, and your example is Aliens, right? That a rated R movie where we have a lot to take in as far as had she been in a TV series where now everything is mellowed out to PG/G,
right?
Because it's a different scenario. It's a much different scenario. I think because it was a television show, a television series, you only have so much you can go with. So therefore, make it a female lead on that. It's like, well, you already don't have enough violence. You already don't have enough explosions.
Okay.
You see my point?
You're
right.
Wait. I'm gonna acquiesce to you on TV.
Yes.
I agree with you 100% that the female lead was fucked over 6 ways.
Oh, huge time. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
6 ways from Sunday, for sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm not going to argue that.
But now you want to hear something funny though, and this leads right into this conversation that you and I are having right now. They wanted to bring back the Greatest American Hero, but this time, and this goes back to another episode when you talked about this generation. You said this generation is so fucked. You're not like Gen X, blah blah blah. This generation.
I didn't say this generation was fucked. I'm just saying that my generation. I just said my generation's cooler.
Well, it is.
That's all I said.
Absolutely.
That's all I said.
But they wanted to bring back the Greatest American Hero with the lead character not being Ralph Hinckley, right? But with the lead character being a West Indies female.
Okay.
So they said, let's hit the minority. Let's hit it as a minority gender as well. So we can hit all bases. And the only thing I didn't hear about it is that they were going to make her gay. Like the only other that would be the trifecta.
Okay, so a gay female from the West Indies.
Right, like something like that. But she wasn't gay.
Right.
Like I'm saying that would be like the only third thing they could have did. Because it was like they were trying to be, and I hate this term, I can't stand this term. They were trying to be woke when it came to bringing the series back. And it got a lot of fan bashing when it came out. Like there's no principal photography, there's no nothing. It was all just rumors. Like to say, hey, we're thinking about doing this, and this is what we're thinking. We want to cast such and such who is from India, or from Malaysia, and we're gonna make it a female lead, and she's gonna have trouble with the suit. Like probably do the same premise, right?
Right.
But just have it be a female, which in 2021, I think is around when it was. I can see where they're going with it. I don't know that character would translate well.
I don't even know. I don't even know.
The show is a comedy. So
that's not the point. The point is the writing.
Well, the writing always.
I don't care. That sounds like a premise for a great character. Right. Great. Yeah. Okay. So it's a female. Fantastic. Get the suit. I have no living shits.
Right.
To give about the gender of a character. I have no fucks to give about the gender of a character.
You're not getting anything out of it.
How good is the writing? Give me a story. Yeah. Give me a character. That's all I give a shit about.
Like what I was thinking.
It's not important to me. What's important to me is the story.
Like if I was going to do this and with a female, when I first heard that statement, right? What I thought in my mind was what's her name? McCarthy from Saturday Night Live. Jenny McCarthy's cousin. What's her name?
Melissa McCarthy.
Melissa McCarthy.
Melissa McCarthy.
Who is fucking hilarious. The woman is fucking hilarious. And I said, put her as the Greatest American Hero and how she would do it. And I think that would be funny as all hell, in that sense. I think, though, coming from the 80s, though, the people that love the 80s, and I think the Greatest American Hero, although probably hits both male and female fans, I think it's predominantly a male-oriented fan base. And I think they were very, very tight on it to say, hey, don't mess with what we know. And a lot of our age group are like, hey, don't change it. If it's not broke, don't fix it. That type of mentality. It doesn't allow for creativity. It doesn't allow for expansion. It doesn't allow for moving forward. And I think there are two sides to sit there and say, well, it's just, if you don't think about it, they're just being creative. There are people out there that'll sit there and say, well, you know what, though? They're doing it to push an agenda. They're not doing it to be creative. So there are two sides to everything, and that can happen, that cannot happen. There's so many arguments that can happen.
Let me put it to you this way.
Yeah.
It comes back down to the writing. right?
It sure does.
So when I do a record, and
Right.
I've done records with male singers,
Okay.
and I've done records with female singers,
Mm-hmm.
it comes down to the writing.
True.
Again, I have no fucks to give on the gender of the protagonist or the antagonist. I want a great story.
Right.
And that's why Sigourney Weaver kicked the shit out of Aliens.
Mm-hmm.
That's why Terminator,
Yeah,
you know,
Linda Hamilton,
yeah, I mean, we
Yeah.
had Arnold as the Terminator, but we had, you know, there was so many great movies in the 80s that had female fronted actors. I don't understand why this is a discussion.
I think because it's the handing off.
Yeah, but the point
then
is that
every-
it has nothing to do with the gender.
But
It
I
has
think
everything to do with the writing.
Right. But I
It's
think
like this was written
in
perfectly
your
for that
examples,
actor.
and
or
understand
actress.
we're playing devil's advocate. That's why we're having this discussion. But understand, in every example that you're doing, Linda Hamilton was made to be the lead from the beginning.
Yeah.
Sigourney Weaver was made to be the lead from the beginning. I don't think we have either way, male to female, female to male, really a lot of instances where there was a handoff, let's say like a handoff, like a passing of the torch or whatever, in a lot of cases where that are at least is noticeable. Because Matt, unless you could think of any, Jason, if you could think of any where either way, male to female, female to male, where it got handed off and the other gender took off.
Which actually proves my point that the
Right.
80s were a better decade. Because my question is, what the fuck happened?
Right, exactly.
Well, as
But do you see my point though? I mean, do you see my point though? Like I'm not.
No,
I'm not saying it's
I
right
get
or
your
wrong. You know what I mean?
no,
Yeah.
I get your point, but I want
Yeah.
you to get my point.
I totally get.
Is
your point.
that what I'm saying is that like the 80s were not the shit show that everyone makes it out to be.
They were awesome.
Females were dominant in the 80s.
Right.
They were dominant lead actors. They were dominant in business. And it's like, okay, well, why not get back to that? What's wrong with that?
Right.
Let's bring the females back to the forefront as they should be.
Right.
My favorite thing about females is that they're female. Like, I want a Sigourney Weaver, Ghostbusters.
Right.
I mean, come on.
Well, I mean, you brought that up in the other episode, and once again, your same sentiment was there, and it was correct though. That movie failed because of the writing, not because
which one? The second
the all female
the all female Ghostbusters.
Oh, I never saw it. And I apologize. I never.
Well,
saw
here's
it.
the thing that I always said when I finally broke down and watched it on cable.
He said I finally broke down and watched it.
If the original Ghostbusters movies didn't exist,
right,
that would have been I wouldn't call it great, but it would have been considered a good
popcorn movie.
Funny movie.
Yeah.
But what really killed that movie was, as you said, Dan, the writing wasn't all that solid.
Right.
The cameos by the original team, couldn't save it.
No.
And unfortunately, because again, since the original Ghostbusters, those first two movies existed, that movie relied on a lot of slapstick.
Right.
Where the comedy in the original two were in so many places was so subtle. It was kind of like the all-female Ghostbusters was kind of like, this is funny, isn't it? This is funny. See, this is funny. This is funny.
Right.
Where the first one, like, I'm going to do something very subtle and I'm going to let you decide whether or not it's funny. The scene I always go back to before is the elevator scene.
Right.
When they go on that first job and Ray's like, okay, switch me on. And Egon switches him on. Egon, the man who created this thing, they're in this tight little elevator. He switches him on. And what does he do?
backs away.
Right. Like if
Now,
this thing goes wrong, you being 4 more inches away from it, it's going to keep you from being vaporized.
Right, and
it's
that's
hysterical.
And that's the humor.
Right.
That's the subtlety and the humor, Matt, that you're talking about.
Right.
And that's not something that you can manufacture.
No.
And I guarantee you, I fucking guarantee you that was improvised.
Mm-hmm. Most likely,
because they were either Second City or SNL cats,
Exactly.
so they were used to that,
and
right?
and see and again, the all-female Ghostbusters was again, these SNL actors. But as we can say, even when you look at SNL from the 70s and the 80s, it's so much different. The comedy, it's like it's almost kind of like at some point in the maybe like mid to late 90s, SNL kind of almost got like the joke felt forced.
Well, I'm going to say,
versus letting it just play out and be all like, you're either going to find this hysterical or you're not. And we're not afraid for you to not find it hysterical. We're not going to have to.
Here's my point on this. This is my point on this. And I'm coming from an artistic standpoint as a musician.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not speaking from a point of authority here because I've never been on set. I don't know. But speaking to what you just said, that idea in the mid 90s where all of a sudden it was directed, comedically directed. And I can tell you from being on the road for years with bands where our best nights were let it happen.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And then there were other nights where promoters were very definitive and they were like, this has to happen right here and now. And yeah, we pulled it off, but it was staged, it was stiff, and it came across amateur. Whereas when you're really good at what you do and they take the leash off of you and they say, be your great. And that's what happened on the original Ghostbusters. It had nothing to do with the fact that they were men.
Right.
Had nothing to do with that. It had to do with the fact that chemistry between those 4 cats right there.
Right.
And I notice I call them cats to make them non-gender. Those 4 cats had a chemistry and they found that chemistry. And they were like, 1, 2, 3. They got the rhythm. They got it going. Right.
Yeah.
So it's not to delineate what the remake make, which I won't speak to because I've never seen it.
Right.
But the bottom line is, I don't care. At the end of the day, it comes down to not only the writing, but it comes down to the vibe. And you know what? It comes down to the directorialship of that movie. Like maybe the director's the guy or whoever directed the movie. I don't know who directed the remake.
Yeah,
but him or her may have been the culprit where they were like, hey, play it this way. I've acted before, so I know what it's like to work with a director, and they tell you, oh, I want this, and you're like, oh man, well, that kind of sucks.
Well,
but you do it anyway.
Kind of circling back to what got us on this, Dan, you're right. It was the final episode. The Ralph's identity gets exposed to the world, so the aliens tell him he's got to find a suitable replacement. And Bill's not really happy about it, but he chooses this female.
Right.
And then what happened was then they did create a pilot. From what I'm seeing here, I don't think it ever aired. But they did it, so it was going to be the greatest American heroine.
Yes.
And
heroine?
Yeah. Exactly. It was
just Bill in his car, just fucking totally tapping out.
Down with that.
And but apparently, I guess it didn't test very well, so they kind of dropped it. And
not that year.
Even back then, I can see kind of where it would be, because ultimately, if you love that show, as Chris talked about, even with the original Ghostbusters, at that point, that show was all about the chemistry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like people weren't going to feel like, it's like, how is this going to play off? I care about these characters. I don't care about this person.
She was introduced in the last episode.
Yeah.
She wasn't like a recurring character
Yeah.
from that season.
Yeah.
Which even that you say, oh, it's only the last season. Like it's not like a lot of time.
All right,
You know,
so
6 episodes, but it was the last episode she was introduced in. Right.
Matt, you brought up a really interesting thing right there that I don't think that everyone thinks about, listeners. And that is when a pilot is filmed or produced, it is tested. Nowadays, we don't know that because everything's accessible. Even everything we do, this show, any podcast, everything is out there in the media. But in those days, everything was tested to a test audience. And they were tested, and if it didn't test well, it was cut off. Now, the thing is, upon my research, the bottom line is that test audience was equal female to male. Right. So if it didn't test well, it didn't test well. It wasn't discriminatory, in a discriminatory way. It was like it didn't. Now I would have loved to have seen it. I would have loved to have seen, but we're not seeing Supergirl raging up the box office. Right. And even the I think they're doing one with the the She-Hulk.
Yeah.
Yeah, the She-Hulk, yeah.
I mean, that didn't explode either.
No, it didn't. It was okay. It was good.
It was fine. I watched it.
Was funny.
It was enjoyable. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't.
I wasn't expecting Shakespeare out of it though either.
Yeah, I mean, but I think it, it's really, as we've kind of mentioned now a couple of times, it's about that chemistry. If you're going to hand something off and kind of change something about the character or continue with somebody else, you almost have to feel invested in that person already.
Character development. Edith Bunker. Who does not love Edith Bunker?
Right.
Exactly.
Maureen. I don't think she could have fought the aliens.
No, but I'm saying that that there's no such thing as that's what I'm talking about.
Right.
Like Matt made a good point. If you write a character and you find the actor, actress to play that character that nails that character, you're gold.
But I'll tell you though, and Matt, you might be able to look this up as far as the dates are concerned. This might have a major play in why the spin-off didn't play off either, because the last episode was, like you said, the backdoor pilot for the new show. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the last episode of Greatest American Hero aired on the same night, not at the same time, but the same night as the last episode of Happy Days.
Let me see here.
And they did in the last episode.
It was 1983.
Yeah,
it was the last episode. I don't have the exact date.
And if you remember, in the last episode, they all gathered in the driveway to say goodbye to the audience, and there was no Chuck. They said, "Fuck Chuck."
Yeah, that was tough. That was a tough day for me.
I remember saying back then, "Where the fuck is Chuck at?"
Hold on.
But yeah, Matt, if you could check that.
Yes, I'm searching it right now.
But I'm pretty sure it was the same night.
Let's see here. The last episode aired February 2nd, 1983.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, and so February. Keep that dating.
February 2nd, 1983. Right.
All right, then let's see. Happy Days. No, it was not the same date. The final episode of Happy Days was July 19th, 1984.
1984.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it outlasted Great American Hero.
There you go. Imagine that, right? So,
That's awesome.
But no, crazy show. I loved it. I love the show. I would like to see it come back.
It'll come back. It'll come back.
I mean,
well, Hollywood's running out of ideas, so it's only a given amount of time. It's only a
amount of time before they do it again.
They do it. And again, it'll just be a matter of finding the right actors and again a well written story.
If it can't be a series, it'll be an hour and a half movie.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's what'll happen. Just like they did with Baywatch when they brought Baywatch back as a movie.
Yeah.
What they did with
they got the Fall Guy coming out.
Fall Guy's coming out. That looks horrible, by the way.
It does.
Yeah. Looks god awful. And I used to like the Fall Guy. We'll talk about the Fall Guy.
That's when bad movies happen to a good premise.
Legit. Guys, we are way over, but it was such
a great time
conversation. I did too. I love debating this stuff with Chris.
Yeah, and I love button heads with you, Danny.
I do. I love it.
That's why I wear my helmet.
And it's all been approved by our producer,
Sonny Crockett.
David's
brother. Hey, hey, I know we kind of talked about this, but there's a picture I'm saving for when we finally get around to doing Miami Vice.
Okay.
I've got when we get around, I've got a picture. You guys, you're going to laugh.
Here's a little funny thing, because we are going to do Miami Vice. I mean, we did Miami Vice on a show called Those Crazy 80s, where Chris Gordon and Foxy, who was one of our hosts here,
that was fun.
That was a fun show. It was probably one of the biggest episodes of Those Crazy 80s. But definitely we can go into more depth on there. But check that out. That's in the special interest section of the DJB Production Network. Jump down there and click on that. Along with these episodes here. Coming up on the next episode. All right, and we got plenty of stuff in the pipeline. But coming up on the next episode, Saturday morning cartoons.
Oh, yeah.
Holy shit. Get your cereal, get your pajamas ready. It's Saturday morning. Get up at 5 o'clock.
Footy pajamas.
Yeah, footy pajamas. You ain't kidding.
Lucky Charms, motherfucker.
That's right, bitches. I'm telling you.
They're magically delicious. Just like me.
Yeah, there you go.
Once again, hit that notification bell, hit that subscribe button, leave us some comments down below. What did you think of the Greatest American Hero? You can get it, you can watch it somewhat on YouTube. There is streaming on a lot of things. I think you can probably watch it on Tubi as well. I had somewhere on DVD, but it's hard to get DVDs now because DVDs are getting out of the picture. It's going to be all digital at this point. Mm-hmm. But check it out. It's Greatest American Hero. Great show. Love the show completely, 100%. And what I challenge everybody to do is order the costume and just wear it one day and go about your business as if you're put on like a pair of khakis and a t-shirt. That's what I want you to do, because I'll do it. I don't care. I'll take pictures and everything.
No, we know you'll do it.
Quite frankly, I think I'd be more convincing as Captain Chaos than the Greatest American Hero.
The Greatest American Hero.
That's what my wife calls me.
Oh, Captain Chaos?
Captain Chaos.
There you go. Sir.
I break everything around here.
That gut is getting to Dom DeLuise.
The Dom DeLuise.
Yeah.
Well, guys, let me tell you.
Awesome. Had a great time.
Thank you so much. For Matt Sonner, for Chris Gordon, for Jason Leach. My name is Danny J. Until next time, we'll see you next. What's that? What do I want to say? We'll see you next
same bad time. Channel.
Thank you, Jason. Jason,
you're very welcome.
All righty then. See you next time.
This concludes our broadcast day for WDJB Productions.